Hey gang, this week's episode is brought to you by oldschoolshirts.com. Hey, check them out. You like defunct teams and leagues and t-shirt form? Well, you'll find them there, but a whole bunch of other stuff too. Do you remember a radio station of the past or perhaps a mall that you used to go to? All kinds of great cultural and sports memories can be found at the great folks at oldschoolshirts.com. Promo code GOODSEATS for 10% off all of your purchases. And now, here's our show.
6'5", hands as quick as lightning. Michael Ray Richardson, Sugar Ray to his fans, hailed as the leader of a new generation of NBA stars.
Michael Ray was a guy who played just like I played. Every time I saw him, he went right at me.
Until his success changed everything.
Friends that I had in New York said, Mike, your boy Sugar's doing some bad things, man. A lot of bad things are happening to him.
I go home, the next day I come to practice, where's Sugar?
The Nets really not know of his whereabouts right now, and, we hope everything's all right for Michael Ray Richardson.
I got this call from my friend up in Harlem, man, and he said his car is parked outside the crack house, and it's got a license plate, Sugar on it.
Non-stop partying, missed practices, lame excuses.
The whole Michael Ray Richardson thing was a mistake.
The crash of a legend in the making was obvious to everyone but him.
Michael Ray Richardson is permanently disqualified from playing basketball in the National Basketball Association.
The never-before-told story of a friend, a father, and the first NBA superstar banned from the game for life.
He was a comet flashing across the basketball heavens. He was there and he was gone.
Welcome to Good Seats Still Available, a curious little podcast devoted to exploring what used to be in professional sports. Here's your host, Tim Hanlon.
All right, Corey Coates, thank you very much, kind sir, for your dulcet tones. Hello there. My name is Tim Hanlon. It is Good Seats Still Available, the curious little podcast that is devoted to what used to be in professional sports. I appreciate you finding us, and hope you had a great Thanksgiving. Hope the turkey is still treating you well, maybe another meal or two to come out of that, and you are firmly gear shifted into at least third gear now as you head into the massive holiday season. And what better way to celebrate than with a turn back into the NBA of yore, and a brand new book that's out. And we've had this episode in the can for a number of months. We had this conversation a long way back. I want to say May, but the book is finally out as of a couple of days ago, and we are delighted to finally bring it to you. This is the story of Michael Ray Richardson, otherwise known as Sugar Ray. And whatever happened to Michael Ray Richardson? If you grew up in the New York, New Jersey metropolitan area and or were an NBA fan, or both for that matter, you may remember Mr. Richardson as being this just out of the blue phenomenon when he joined the New York Knicks in 1978. He was a first round pick. He was fourth pick overall out of Montana, of all places. And this guy, shooting guard, point guard, was just an immense talent and a high wattage player. And it just lit up the Garden night after night, and was just an electric player. But as we'll hear in our conversation, as probably many of you remember, and maybe even that documentary from 2000 from where that clip came, a movie, by the way, narrated by Chris Rock, called Whatever Happened to Michael Ray Richardson. Well, let's put it this way. His star wattage was not only just seen on the court, but also off of it as well. While not a person to partake in drugs and quote unquote extracurricular activities in high school or in college, boy, when he hit the New York, New Jersey metropolitan area, he certainly took advantage of a very fast lifestyle and then some. And drugs were prominent in that lifestyle. And I think most people know the story that dogged him both in his Knicks play and certainly with the Nets by 1980, I guess it was 1986 or so, February 25th, 1986, that Michael Ray was banned for life, quote unquote, by then Commissioner David Stern for the 3 strikes and you're out clause, if you will, when it came to the NBA's drug policy at the time. Now, he was essentially reinstated a couple of years later, but at that time, that was about as a death penalty as you were going to find. And despite a cup of coffee in between the Knicks and the Nets with the Golden State Warriors, that was pretty much it for Michael Ray Richardson's NBA career. By the time the league had finally come around to offer him an opportunity to come back, and after having played a bit with the Albany Patroons, previous episode conversation that we've had a couple of times in the old CBA, Michael had absconded already to Europe, where he went on for at least another 9-10 years, I think it was, to play quite successfully and as a fan favorite, like he was in the New York, New Jersey area, in places like Bologna in Italy and Split, Croatia, a couple of teams in the French league, and all the way until 2002. Now, remember, this movie came out, if you remember, in 2000. So there are many, many things that are still to come in the story of Michael Ray Richardson post that documentary. And that's where the new book comes into play. And it is called Banned. It sounds like a reasonable title, don't you think? Banned: How I Squandered an All-Star NBA Career Before Finding My Redemption, by Michael Ray Richardson and his co-author in crime, also joining us on the cast this week, Jake Uitti. And we're going to get into the rest of the story, I guess, as Paul Harvey would have said. And it's not just the rise and sudden fall of an NBA career, because there's so much more that happened after that fall. And there's a great spirit to it, and you'll hear various elements of it in this conversation coming up. But before we do so, let me remind you how to get a copy of this book, right? Of course, you can go to your local bookseller and support them and get it that way. Wherever you can find good books, that's fine too. But, hey, if you'd like to support this show probably in the easiest and most painless way possible, is all you got to do is go to our website, and that's goodseatsstillavailable.com. That's where we post all of our episodes, if you're not already getting them in your favorite podcast feed or catcher, whatever device, whatever contraption you're using to get podcasts. But if you somehow forget, or if you're a friend of yours doesn't understand how to do the podcast thing, just send it to the website and just search up this episode. It's numbered 372. And as we do with every episode, we if there's a book or a movie or some other merchandise tie-in or whatever, we'll have convenient links there. And in this case, we have a convenient link, or two actually, to the book in both hardcover as well as Kindle versions from our friends at Amazon. And we get a couple of shekels of referral love. Not very much, but it's a little bit, and it helps keep our lights on and stocked our cabinet stocked with paper and pens and stuff, so we can actually write down notes. That's how we sort of keep this show kind of running. So if you'd like to support the show, a more painless way you will not find than to do that. And again, goodseatsstillavailable.com, and just click on the links to get the book as fast as humanly possible. Hey, if you're a Prime member, you're going to get it even faster than that. They may have already have it delivered to you already, and you don't even know it. That's how fast you'll get it. All right, there you go. All right, so I'm not going to waste any more time. Here's a conversation, a great one and fun one to have. Lots of upside, certainly some real bad downtimes, and a get up off the floor and a rise again conversation too. In all of this, with both Michael Ray Richardson and co-author in crime Jake Uitti. We had this chat back in May, and we literally have been having it sit in the lockbox, rattling around until we figured out when this book was coming out. Finally, lo and behold, it came out a couple days ago. So now, without further ado, here is this conversation. Please, as always, enjoy. This show is, we've been doing this for 6-7 years or so. It's kind of a little cult to it. It's kind of focused on various things, teams, leagues, situations that have come and gone, defunctness, all that kind of stuff. The New Jersey Nets certainly qualify. All the teams you played for, Sugar, in the U.S. Basketball League and the CBA certainly qualify. But we also love, not sort of the frivolity of all that, but we also love the real stories. I mean, there's some real heartbreaking and tragic and redemptive stories and all that kind of stuff. So any hook is just kind of our thing here. And it's a little bit obviously of history because a lot of this stuff tends to happen in the past. The cool thing, by the way, is that there are always new sports teams that will be relocated or will be defunct. Not that we're rooting for, but we are rooting for the Sonics to come back in Seattle, all that kind of stuff. So
that's right. That's right.
That's the whole. That's the whole promise. So, all right. So let's jump into this. And again, thank you for making time. But I do have to start with one question. Michael, tell me, you want to go by Sugar or you want to go by Michael Ray? Or Michael?
I mean, I can go by Michael Ray. I mean, it doesn't make a difference.
All right. You respond to all of those things. Okay. You got to clear this up for me, though, because in doing research for this episode, how do you spell your first name and why is it so confusing when I look it up? Is it A-L, A-E, or E-A?
I mean, it's spelled A-E-L. But I mean, I don't know who's making a real big, like a big deal out of it. I mean, you can smell it like, 2 or 3 different ways. You know what I mean? So, but it's not a big deal.
Oh, no, I get it. I just was wondering, perhaps it was the way that your birth certificate set it up or there was a family way that you want to. Yeah.
No. Well, on my birth certificate, it's spelled M-I-C-H-A-E-L. But I mean, like when I was going to school, it was spelled M-I-C-H-E-A-L. You know what I mean? So it didn't make a difference. I mean, well, I guess, Michael is Michael, right?
No, I agree. I was just wondering that perhaps like in the jog of my memory as a kid growing up being a Knicks and ultimately Nets fan. And by the way, you gave me an autograph back when I was a kid back in the Meadowlands at your first season with the Nets.
So were you going way back then?
Yeah, I know that. But yeah, I mean, I didn't know if I was going to get that name right or wrong. But in today's day of AI and stuff, right? The actual spelling wind up being a problem as people look for more info for you as this book comes out. But regardless, I'm glad you cleared that up. All right, let's.
Okay, yeah, no, I mean, it's not a big deal.
Yeah, okay, that's cool. Not a big deal for me. If it's not a big deal for you, certainly not. So, all right, tell me, guys, first of all, how you two came together for this project. Obviously, we're going to get into the story in a minute or two, but how did you guys get hooked up? Who found whom? And I suspect, Michael, you had obviously a story that you were looking to get into shape for book form and stuff.
Yeah. A good friend of mine by the name of Earl Carlton, who just passed away, he had mentioned to me about JK did his book and how good he was and how satisfied he was and that he knew that I had a good story and I was trying to get my story out there. And so he hooked us up.
Yeah, I'd met Earl, who's, who, as Sugar said, he passed away in February, I believe, February or March. And he was a really good friend of mine over the course of working on a memoir, his memoir. And I met him through Muggsy Bogues, whose book I also co-wrote. And Earl just introduced me to Sugar, told me that Sugar was interested in writing a book. And I love doing these projects, writing books, working with players and telling this story. I'm a huge NBA fan, huge basketball fan. And so the fact that Michael was interested, made me interested, and we started talking, and we just kind of like started almost immediately.
That's great. Muggsy, a previous guest of this show, also a fun and interesting story for sure.
And then, like, what I really wanted to do was to really get the true story out there from me, because there's some other stuff that has been written which I really had not anything to do with.
Yeah.
So I wanted to have my story, have my truth out there.
We're going to dig into that, because I vividly remember, obviously, growing up in the New York, New Jersey area and being a Hoops fan at the time, and still, of course. There obviously there was some very troubling years there for you and all the people around you trying to figure out, how does this guy get help and all that kind of stuff. And I think the redemptive part of it is also going to be very important. But let's go back kind of a little bit to the beginning. How did you become this budding superstar of a basketball player? When did you discover you had skill? Was it in grade school and high school? And how did you wind up in Montana growing up in Texas?
Well, no, I didn't grow up in Texas. I was born in Texas.
Oh,
I grew up in Denver, Colorado, first of all, and then I moved to Denver when I was about 5 or 6 years old. My mom had left early, and we had stayed with our grandparents for a couple of years, and my mom wanted to move to a bigger city where she could try to provide better for us. And so she had moved to Denver. And once she had found a job and found a place, then me and my siblings and my grandparents, we moved to Denver. And so I grew up in Denver, and I went to an elementary school called Mitchell Elementary. And the principal, he was also the basketball coach. His name was Donald Wilson. And so one day outside doing during like recess, we was playing basketball, and he saw me and asked me if I wanted to come and play for his sixth grade team, because he felt that I had natural, basketball skills. And then after that, that's when it all got started.
I'm assuming you had some physical traits towards it too, in terms of height and maybe some speed and footwork and that kind of stuff.
Well, when I was a kid, I was a real small kid. I was real thin. Like, I was so thin that my socks wouldn't really stay up on my legs, And so, but I was really quick, and I could handle the basketball. And so, after that, I was off and running.
And when did you know in high school that you had a shot for the next level of college, and maybe even, frankly, when did you even get the notion that you could actually make it to the next level in the pros? Or did that take time to come?
Well, every year I was getting better. And then when I got to high school, because when I was in elementary and junior high, I was the point guard. And then when I got to high school, I played small forward, but I could still handle the ball real good. And so I started like my sophomore, junior, and senior year, and we had a great basketball team at the end. We were like 23-0 going into the state finals my senior year, and we ended up losing our state final game to a school called Bear Creek. And so I really had a great basketball tournament and all of that. And so I had a chance to either go to University of Iowa or Colorado State. And then came along Judd Heathcote and asked me to come up and visit the University of Montana. So I went up there and I visited the University of Montana, and what they was offering me was that I could start and play as a freshman on the varsity team.
And Sugar, weren't you playing against like ABA guys too in high school? Weren't you like?
Yeah, like during the summers, I was playing. It was called a Pro-Am League, where you had like David Thompson, Rob Sampson, and all of those guys playing in the summer.
Holy mackerel.
Yeah, so I was able to play in those leagues. And, I was getting better every year. You know what I mean?
If you're playing against pros in the summer, even in a semi-pro setup, you've got to be getting pretty good.
Yeah. So I was getting, every year I was getting better.
All right. So how? So Montana, though, and then Jake, I'm going to ask you sort of how you sort of get more detail from a school that's not necessarily known as a basketball power, right? So of those two choices that you had, I mean, you were talking about, I don't know where Colorado State was at the time, but obviously Iowa's Big Ten. That's obviously a lot more spotlight there. I mean,
you know what? But like my whole thing was, I didn't want to go somewhere where I would have to sit for like 1 or 2 years.
Sure.
And not be able to play. So I chose Montana because I was able to get there and play like right away all 4 years.
And so and also too, I think it's really important to remember, and Jake, fill me in on this too, if I go astray here. We have to also remember too, this is back in, I mean, your freshman year was what, 74, 75 with Montana, right? So
right.
They were back in, this is the Big Sky back in the day. And it was the tournament, right? Was, I mean, for you guys to make the tournament was,
it was unbelievable.
Herculean, because there's not even near 64, 68 teams in the bid structure at that point, right?
You're right. But at that time, we had a hell of a team. We had a guy by the name of Eric Hayes and Ken McKinsley, guys who were like second team All-Americans. I mean, we had some great basketball players at that time.
And then, Judd was a great coach. Yeah,
yes.
he coached Magic in Michigan State the following year.
Yeah, like the year after he left us my sophomore year. He won the NCAA's the following year with Michigan State. He won the national championship game
with another big guard. Yeah.
Jake, on the Montana stuff, though, right? As you did research for this book and stuff, I got to think that they're and correct me if I'm wrong, Michael. I mean, you're revered there, right? You're in their Hall of Fame and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I got to think that they detailed your every move.
Hall of Fame. I got all the records and everything. Yeah, I got a lot.
What, Jake,
I mean, if I had to do it all over again, I'd do it the same way.
What did you discover, Jake? Maybe that Michael wasn't forthcoming about his his college days. Anything untoward or perhaps interesting that sort of popped up in that?
No, I mean, Michael had a great memory for all this stuff, and there's some sordid personal details that he didn't have any part of. That I don't know if it's appropriate for the audience to get into some crappy accusations that he had to endure along the way, but basketball wise, I mean, the fact, as you mentioned, the fact that he made the tournament was great, and being coached by Judd Heathcote was incredible. I wish I could talk to Judd for the book about what Michael taught him, and how he then used that to teach and coach Magic Johnson, another very tall point guard. But yeah, I don't know. Michael is a star at Montana, and it's interesting. You can go to a school and be one of many, or you can go to a school and be the guy in history. And when we announced the book, there's still people from Montana reaching out, asking for interviews and wanting to be a part of the book because his legacy is so long there.
Yeah, you hold a ton of records, right, Michael?
Yes. Yep. I know one like right off the top. We had beat a crosstown rivalry, Montana State, and I hold the record for that game. I think I scored 40.
And there's a great moment you were telling me, Sugar, that like your mom was like the first.
Yeah. Well, what happened was like my mom hadn't seen me, play.
Yeah.
And I had twisted my ankle, and I didn't know if I was going to play or not. But my mom, she was coming to the game that weekend, and matter of fact, it was against Montana State. And like that whole week, I was on crutches, and then I was able to put my shoe on that stair, but my ankle was, it was swollen, but I was getting treatment like the whole week, and then I was able to play on that Saturday, and I came out and scored 40, but like the next day I couldn't walk. But it was unbelievable.
Yeah.
Well, you're a big fish in a small pond in this regard, and I think that probably just was proving your instinct, right, to be at a place where you could play immediately and knew that you could not only.
Oh yeah,
but
yeah.
lead.
I was looking at the whole deal at all these big schools where all these basketball players were getting all these scholarships, but they wasn't really, playing like the first and the second year. Well, like I didn't want to be involved in that. You know what I mean?
How did Judd Heathcote find you, and then how did you feel after that freshman year when he left for supposedly greener pastures? You must have felt a bit heartbroken.
Well, what happened was the assistant coach by the name of Jim Brandenburg, he really found me because he was there at our high school state tournament, And so he was there. I met him personally. He came over, and then he went back and told Judd about me, and then they flew me in. And so I built a relationship with Judd, but I had already had a kind of good relationship with Jim, with Coach Brandenburg, because during the whole season, my first year, I was always over to Jim's house. His wife was fixing me dinner.
Yeah.
He made me feel like I was at home. Well, you know what I mean? Like him and his wife was really, really nice to me.
And it's a testament, like, you don't have to go to North Carolina to make the pro. I mean, you were picked, what was it, fourth, out of Montana. Yeah. And out of a small school.
Thing was, if you could play, somebody's going to come find you. And what happened was, we had played up in northern Arizona, up in Flagstaff, Arizona, which is snow and everything. And the head coach of the New York Knicks came to see me play. So imagine that. And that's
an important part of the story. Keep going.
And so that was really, really how I got seen, was that the coach of the Knicks had came to see me play. And then after that year was over, I was invited to all the All-Star games with all like the top seniors in Hawaii. So it was like a lot of agents there, a lot of guys from all like the big name schools were like there. And so I went there and had an unbelievable tournament. I was first team all tournament. I did everything well. And from there, at first, before I got there, I was going to be a second round draft pick. And then when I got there, it moved up to be in the first round.
Which coach of the Knicks was this at this time?
Willis.
Was it Willis Reed?
Reed. Willis Reed.
The great Willis Reed.
And how did he know to find you?
I don't know, but he came up to see me up in northern Arizona.
I think the Knicks were playing Phoenix that weekend.
Was playing up in Phoenix. The Knicks were playing up in Phoenix, and he was looking for like a big guard, because at that time they was in the hunt, because Walt Frazier, he was on his way out. Yeah. And so Willis was looking for somebody to take Walt Frazier's place.
When did you go ahead?
Must have been a lot of pressure too, right, Sugar? I mean, to replace Walt Frazier, like, that wasn't a small thing.
No, but like when I was drafted, I thought I was going to probably play, but I wasn't going to get to play a whole lot. Yeah. And then when since Willis Reed had drafted me, he would let me play. And then when after the first 16 games that they fired Willis Reed, then they brought in Red Holzman.
That's why I was confused. Yeah.
And then Red Holzman, he didn't believe in playing rookies. And so after Willis left, I didn't get a lot of playing time my first year. So I went home. I played in all the Pro-Am leagues. I stayed in shape. And when I got back my second year, then I won the starting job.
Well, to Jake's point, right? That billing. Let's back up for a second. You were the 4th overall pick in the draft, right? And I don't think, obviously, in today's world, right, with all sports radio and stuff, and constant and on digital and social media and stuff, but still, I think even those draft aficionados, so to speak, even especially in the overhyped media market of New York, did not see you coming.
No, nobody, no.
When did you know that you were going to be that first pick, or did you not know either, really?
Well, I didn't know. Well, after I left Hawaii, because all the coaches and agents, they were on me like bees on honey. I know I was going to go up in the first round, but I didn't know where. But I knew I was going in the first round.
How would you describe the New York fan base's reception of you as that pick?
I mean, it was unbelievable. Because they at first they like really didn't know me, so there was some cheers, but there was some boos too. That's just New York. And then after my first or my second game, then it was a whole lot of cheers. You know what I mean?
Well, sure, but also in the biggest media market, and a hell of a year that year in terms of in terms of the draft talent. I mean, Reggie Theus was in that. Mitch Bush Lee was in that. Larry Bird, of course, was 2 picks after you.
Well, if you remember, the LA Lakers had cut Bush Lee, and he was a player of the year.
Yep. Yeah, no doubt. So but it also has to be, and I think this maybe sort of gets a little bit into sort of the personal stuff, which which is obviously important to your overall story, right? Going from, suburban Denver, going to Montana, playing basketball in, a relatively smaller kind of conference and market and stuff. And then literally being kind of picked out of nowhere in many sort of professional, aficionado circles, right, would say, into the biggest media market on the planet, depending on your perspective, lots of pressure. And already being it's decided for you that you're basically going to step in eventually into the shoes of Walt Frazier, who was by that point already a legend in New York Knicks history. Was that overwhelming to you? Were you scared by that prospect? Did you not?
No, I mean, as a basketball player, you don't go in there thinking where you got to be scared, But when I first got there, it's like I went from the smallest place in the world to like the largest place in the world, because when I first got there, the only thing I was concerned about was where was the grass, where was the trees, because there's none in New York City, you know what I mean? And by being like raised up where there's grass and trees, like what the hell is going on here? You know what I mean? So, but like other than that, I mean, I liked it because there was always something going on in New York. You know what I mean?
Well, I guess, and that to me obviously leads to the another related question, right? And I think where this is going. So, is New York part of this? Part of the budding problem that on the substance abuse stuff?
No.
Do you think this would have happened elsewhere too?
Of course. Listen, at that time it was everywhere, and like when I was in high school and college, I never had a drink. I didn't have my first drink until I was like my second year in the pros. And then probably my fourth or my fifth year, I was out one night at a guy's house, and they was doing it, and he just, they was just passing it around, and I happened to, try it, but I really didn't get the, effect of it.
And you'd been around it before, right, Sugar?
Yeah,
and
of course I was.
You passed it up, and it wasn't you weren't about it.
Yeah. I just wouldn't, it just wasn't into it. I mean, I was on a mission. My whole thing was about basketball at that time. I was trying to get to the next level, make all-star teams, and do all that.
Yeah.
So I wasn't even really worried about all of that. And then probably like 3 weeks later, I tried it again out at a party, and boom, I got the effect of it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, the effect is not necessarily just a one time. It becomes kind of
but
gotta get that effect again sometime. Yeah,
but it doesn't come every day, but it just comes a little bit more frequently. You know what I mean?
Describe for me though the NBA in the late 1970s as well. I think people maybe forget that. During the 1970s wasn't, I mean, obviously in the early part of the decade, the New York Knicks were quite a dominant story. There's lots of little legends and stuff of how dominant those teams were in the early part of the decade. But aside from that, right, the NBA was not what we know it to be today, right? There was lots of dark corners and uncertainties, right? Listen.
In life in general is like that too, like movie stars, actors, musicians.
I'm gonna say something, but see, like a lot of guys now, even to this day, that the NBA took marijuana off of their list because now 80% of the players are smoking marijuana.
Sure, of course.
So if you take it off the list, then you ain't got to worry about it.
No, I guess my question was more about like, what were you seeing around the league? Because frankly, the league itself had some issues structurally. You had playoff games that were tape delayed. I mean, these were, what you got to understand is that there was one game a week, and it was delayed telecast on CBS.
So, I mean, the NBA itself was in trouble.
Right.
And so it wasn't because of the guys that was, doing drugs or anything like that. It was that the league was into trouble because there was two leagues. There was the ABA, there was the NBA. And so at that time, the ABA was much more exciting and had much better players than the NBA. And so at one point, that's why the ABA, NBA had finally merged, because all of the, great players in the ABA came over to the NBA.
Yeah, and you just missed that, right? You didn't have the opportunity to have two leagues.
I had just missed that.
But you were welcomed quite well in the New York community, right? And
of course, I mean, I was loved there. You know what I mean?
Still is. Still goes to the games.
Oh yeah. I mean, listen, like what I went through had nothing to do with me as a basketball player. You know what I mean? It was just, I'm a firm believer of our scripture as a person in our life has already been written. This was just something that was part of my scripture that I had to, go through. Because I never smoked or drank when I was in elementary, high, or junior high school, or even in college. And drugs were in college. But I just wasn't I was on a mission.
When did you start realizing that perhaps you had a problem and that perhaps maybe it wasn't manageable, or was that told to you, so to speak?
Well, you know what? As being a professional athlete, you're always thinking that you can control everything because you was able to reach like the highest basketball league that there is. So it knows that you're mentally tough, that you're strong, and that you could be in control of anything. In your mind that's how you're thinking. But there's always something that's a little bit more powerful than like you. And I guess it took me a while to understand that the drugs was bigger than me.
All right, what's this? Oldschoolshirts.com. Fantastic. You've heard me talk on and on and on about the great folks and the great wares at oldschoolshirts.com. Like the name implies, it's old school and it's shirts, and they put them together, into what they call oldschoolshirts.com. It's like the name implies, but of course we love them primarily for their sportswear. You name the league of the past, you name the team of the past, the chances are huge that they're going to have more than one shirt and different color schemes for things that you may remember from the United Football League or the Major Indoor Soccer League or various flavors of the original XFLs, plural, or the Federal League perhaps, or maybe World Team Tennis, or maybe it was the North American Soccer League, and on and on and on. But hey, it's not just sports. It's also great cultural touchstones and memories from the past. How about the officially licensed Evel Knievel connection? How about collection? Yeah, that's what he's trying to say. Various colleges. How about dead malls of the past? Ice cream parlors, maybe even radio stations that you might remember. Hey, even there's a latest edition of the now old, Aloha Stadium commemorative shirt. All that kind of stuff and more. You will find at least a handful of shirts that you will just transport you back into your past, and you will amaze and impress your friends at the same time. It's oldschoolshirts.com, and we got a promo code for you, of course. Let's save you some dough while you go there, and its promo code is Good Seats. Good Seats. That's the promo code at oldschoolshirts.com. Promo code Good Seats for 10% off all of your purchases. Hey, P.F. Wilson and your friends at oldschoolshirts.com, thank you for your sponsorship of the show. And now, back to our conversation. I get the sense, though, and this part of this is memory, and part of this is some research and understanding of the league and the players at the time, right? how can I best put this? This was not sort of a problem or an issue that was yours alone, right? There were a lot of other, not
of
a
course.
lot, maybe a lot.
Listen, there was a lot.
Substance abuse, yeah, there was a lot.
Yes,
okay, tell me about that.
Look, back in the late 70s, early 80s, look, if I would have came out and spoke on what was really going on in the league, I would have brought the league down. But I kept my mouth shut because I got caught. A lot of other guys didn't get caught. So I never spoke about anybody else. So kind of like I took the blame for everybody else. But, I mean, I take full responsibility of my actions.
Remind us let's call it policy in the NBA at that time. It sounds like it was kind of like a 3 strikes and you're out kind of thing, and nobody had.
That came later. That came later. Yeah, that came towards the end of Sugar's career.
Well, Jake, keep me honest here, because David Stern comes into this story in 1984, right? That's when he becomes a commissioner. Is that true? Is that right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So
yes.
I guess I'm curious, Michael in particular, and Jake, maybe to sort of keep us honest here. Obviously, the NBA, by bringing in Stern, had sort of recognized that they needed some higher level of management and oversight, and by all accounts, right? If you look you look back, I mean, Stern is given a whole lot of credit for taking that league and moving it into the next level and all that stuff. But that said, am I reading into this properly, where the league's evolution was kind of overlapping with your issues as well, and maybe the policies or the approach might have differed or changed along the way?
Well, I think the NBA is a reflection of the country also. It wasn't just the NBA that was having drug issues, and I don't want to turn the whole podcast into a drug podcast, but David Stern came in to build the business, and to do that, he had to sort of clean up the issues that were reflective of the issues in the country at large. And sometimes, but
like at that time, Jake, like the cocaine and stuff, it was like just now hitting the United States, and it was hitting the United States hard.
Right. In all forms of entertainment.
It was everywhere. It was in politics. It was in sports. It was in entertainment. It was everywhere. It just was
movies.
Well, it was also given a bit of a sexiness to it too. Right?
Of course. I mean, it was everywhere. It just wasn't in professional sports.
And in the movie Caddyshack, all the actors were doing cocaine in the movie Caddyshack. They've talked about it too. So it's everywhere. It wasn't just in the NBA. And David Stern was coming in and trying to build the business. And part of that is, to give it a bit more of a squeaky clean perception, and he built up the rivalry of Magic and Bird and Boston and LA and everything like that. And towards the end of Sugar's NBA career, they created the 3 strike system. And that's unfortunately, what led to when he was suspended and banned from the league. And then Sugar also has the reputation and the truth that he was the first player reinstated back into the NBA too. 2 years after he left in 1988, but he stayed abroad and played abroad. So there's a lot of things going on in the country and in the league in unison. And Sugar was sort of at the middle of it, and being in New York. But it's certainly not like the only part of his story, of course.
Oh no! It's, and like I don't want that to be just a part of my story, because that's not who I.
Yeah,
you've been sober for decades now.
No, and I don't either. I do though want to kind of just use this as the springboard to what came afterwards, right? I guess what I'm just trying to get at is it seems like you've described sort of this league, and and culturally it's kind of all over the place, but you're also describing, I think too, that you were one of the few to kind of get caught when others perhaps didn't. So I'm just really I'm curious.
That's exactly what happened.
Why do you think
others didn't?
Yeah. Why do you think that kind of happened? And I guess I'm trying to also get to the.
I don't know what
the maturation of NBA.
Well, I can't tell you why those guys didn't get caught, but I can literally tell you this: like the day that they called me in, the night before, I was with 4 or 5 other NBA guys. I'm gonna leave it at that. So I know for a fact that it just wasn't me. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and other players were suspended after you too for there was
like Lewis Lloyd.
Yeah.
Who else were there?
John Lucas.
John Lucas.
Yeah.
I mean, if you
lots.
really wanted to think about it, look at Len Bias. You know, he didn't have a chance to make it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
So, I mean,
but it is also clear, though, too, even through all this period and stuff, right? Your basketball skills do not seem to have diminished a whole lot. I mean, the comeback player of the year stuff, and I mean, I don't know how you did it. I mean, I guess psychologically, I wonder how you did it, right? When you knew that you were sort of getting deeper into this dependence and playing.
But see, people don't understand. It's not like something that you do like every day, 24 hours a day. Like you may go 2 weeks or 3 weeks and don't do it, and then maybe you do it for maybe 1 or 2 days. You know what I mean? It's not something that you would do every day.
Yeah, and so then describe for me then when this ban occurred for you. This was obviously something that was relatively new. Maybe you were made as a scapegoat, perhaps.
I wasn't. You know what? And like I told David, listen, he only did what he had to do. If I wouldn't have been doing what I was doing, I never would have got kicked out of the NBA. So I take full responsibility of that. But at that time, I probably needed something like that to shake me out of it. You know what I mean? Because it probably really saved my life.
But you had gone through rehab earlier, right? During your
but those rehab stuff doesn't work. It's a money making business. I don't care. There is no way that they can put you into a program for 30 days and say that you're cured. You know what I mean? As a person, you gotta want to do it. Ain't no the rehab can't keep you sober. You have to want to keep yourself sober. You know what I mean? I mean, it's real. Now it's kind of simple because I've been clean for so long, but it's people, place, and things. If you do that, if you change the people that you run with, the places that you go, and the things that you do, you ain't gonna have a problem. It sounds simple, but it's a lot of work.
No, I no doubt, I get that. All right, so let me ask this: did you expect this? The ban, and then what was your immediate feeling thereafter?
You know what? I didn't expect it. I kept thinking in my mind that I'm always going to get another chance. So at one point, they just had to draw the line, and I went over the line. You know what I mean?
Well, what did you think you would do next, and what did and tell us then what you chose to do next, especially as a basketball player, in addition to I'm guessing seeking help, right?
No. So after that, I went home and I looked at myself in the mirror and said, "I got kids. I'm the only one that can get myself out of this." And so, like right away, I went and I got help. And then I went back to start working out every day. And then when the CBA came along, I started playing in the CBA. Played for a guy by the name of Bill Musselman, who was a coach of the NBA.
And we had Patroons, right?
Yeah. And we went like we were 65-10, and we won the CBA, and then I had a chance to go over and play in Bologna, Italy. So I took that opportunity, and then after that, it was history.
You also played your first, it looks like, I think, was the USBL, this United States Basketball League out on Long Island.
I played in that. It was like during the summer, but it really wasn't a good league. You know, I just was just playing in that league just to stay in shape, just to keep my skills going. And then once the season started in the CBA, then I got that opportunity to go and play in the CBA.
And describe for me how your journey during those couple of years, right? Because frankly, I'm not sure everybody was necessarily going to be a help to you per se, right? But others would be helpful to you, right? So getting that chance with the Knights and the USBL, despite the quality, right? That's an opportunity. That's like a chance to kind of take another step again. Or the Patroons going to the CBA. Yeah, it's not the NBA, but it gives you an opportunity. I got to think there were certain people in at that time that were kind of in your corner and looking out for you versus perhaps some others.
Well, at that point, I couldn't worry about anything, anybody else, but just worry about me. All I knew was this. I got myself into it. I had to get myself out of it. So I had to do whatever I had to do to get myself out of it. And I did that.
What was the plan then? Was it to eventually try to figure out a way to get back into the NBA? Because you were
like my whole thing was to do what I needed to do to get back into the league. And so what happened was I went to the CBA, played in the CBA, won a championship, did everything I was supposed to do. I had like all of my, drug tested, noted. I had everything on paper, like what I did day to day. And so I was ready to go back to the NBA to show, what I was doing. And then this here opportunity came out for me to go overseas, and it was for a lot of money. And so I said, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go overseas and give this a look, and then if things don't work out, then I'm gonna come back and give the NBA a try. So I went over to Italy, had a great year. In my second year, I had a Johnny Dawkins played for the 76ers, and he tore up his knee. Well, Harold Katz was the owner, and Gene Shue was the coach. But so they had called me, and they wanted me to come back in the middle of the season and take Johnny Dawkins' place. And I told him, and they only wanted to offer me for 1 year, but I wanted 2 because I was getting up in age and stuff. And they said, no, we only going to guarantee you 1 year. So I said, well, I'm not coming back. I'm going to stay over here in Italy. And I ended up staying over there playing until I was 46 years old. So it was a great move.
Yeah, you were there the entire 90s and a little bit at the tail end of the 80s and the early part of the aughts. So did you? Yes. So did you? When did the reinstatement happen? Was that before that you got the call, or was that sort of perhaps part of it? And how does the reinstatement process happen? And I mean, that also had to surprise you too, perhaps.
Well, it didn't. It really didn't surprise me because I was doing what I was supposed to do. You know what I mean? I mean,
you have to apply for reinstatement stuff too.
Yeah, what you have to do is you gotta apply for it, then you gotta show like what you was doing in them 2 years. You gotta document your drug testing and all of that stuff. So I had all of that. You know what I mean? I mean, I wanted to look. I was the first one out. I wanted to be the first one to come back.
But Europe was more to your liking, and it was money wise, lifestyle wise too.
I mean, the lifestyle, the lifestyle over there is much better than the lifestyle up here in America. Excuse me, if you want to be honest. Listen, over there is what you do is for like the normal person. They'll go to work in the morning. They'll get off for lunch at noon, and don't have to be back to work till 4 o'clock. Where in America, you got to go for lunch. You only gonna get it like a half hour, and then you got to go back to work. Over there, they work to enjoy their life. Here in America, they work to survive. It's a big difference. You know what I mean?
And the same it was like that with players too, right? Because you had 1 game a week and practices.
I mean, look, it was like we played on Sundays afternoons. We would have Mondays off. And then if you were in the Euro League, then you would play like twice a week. You'd play on Wednesdays and Sundays. But then it was so laid back. And then your money, it was, tax-free. They would pay you cash at the end of the month. I mean, it was unbelievable. I mean, and then they would pay for your housing, pay for your car. You didn't have any expenses. You had no expenses.
And there's guys like Bob McAdoo over there.
Oh, there was, listen, Bob McAdoo came over there.
Another autograph in my New Jersey Nets yearbook, but I digress. Go ahead.
Yeah, but I mean, like Michael Cooper came over there, George Gervin was over there, Artis Gilmore was over there. I mean, Daryl Dawkins. There was some big time NBA guys over there.
It's interesting too. Not to get too off topic, but the people always talk about the dream team is like the thing that like started foreign basketball in a way, but it was guys like Sugar and Bob McAdoo who was priming the countries to be able to even compete against the dream team. People like Earl Cureton teaching those guys how to play basketball. It's this sort of cool like pre-era to the international boom.
I mean, it was a lot of NBA guys over there, and I mean, I'm talking about like the top NBA players.
Yeah.
So I mean, it was a great experience. It was a great experience. I mean, there's nothing I would change about my basketball. If I could change something, it would be the drug thing. But other than that, I wouldn't change nothing. That was a great experience for me because I wouldn't have never been able to see places that I saw just because of basketball.
So, at what point did you mentally say, I don't care, I don't need the NBA anymore? What was it like? What was it, that decision point around the 1 year, 2 year Philadelphia opportunity, or did you still harbor the possibility that you would still come back?
Like when I first took the job in Bologna, Italy, and so I signed for my first year I signed for $400,000 cash. The day before I got on the plane, they put $50,000 in my bank account. Like back then, I said, I don't need the NBA to make money. I can go over here and make money.
I don't blame you.
And so, and then when once I got over there and saw how easy it was, I said, I'm not going back. You know what I mean? I said, I'm not going back. I mean, it was much easier.
And you won.
Yeah. I mean, I was winning, and I mean, listen. Even to this day, when I go there, they treat me like a king. And I haven't played ball over there in almost 30-some years.
Any particular team or country that you enjoyed more than others, per se?
Italy.
Why so?
I mean, Italy, because it was just so nice. I mean, it was
food.
Yeah, the food, like the country. I mean, it was just so much stuff to do. You know what I mean? So there's like so much history. You know.
Okay, so the playing career, obviously, you went later in your career. I mean, playing until you were 46, 47 years old. I mean, that's a pretty good testament to your body's ability to hang around, even in the European League, which is still no slouch of an environment. When did you decide that coaching would be your next turn? And how?
Okay, so what happened was I had came back to Denver in like 2003. So I took a job working with the Denver Nuggets. And I was working as a community ambassador with Kiki Vandeweghe, which is a really nice guy.
Sure.
And then I had a chance to coach the Albany Patroons.
Going back home, so to speak, or at least for that 1 year,
so
right?
I always wanted to see if I could coach. So I wanted to try. So I took the opportunity and I liked it. So I started coaching. Then I got to the finals in Albany and we ended up losing. And then I got another offer in Lawton, Oklahoma, coaching in the CBA. So I said, okay, I'm going to take that job.
That's with the Cavalry, right? The Oklahoma Cavalry. Yeah.
Yes. And then I ended up winning like 3 championships in a row. And
that's amazing. Amazing. I mean, people have to remember too okay, you tell me. What was the CBA the second best league in the world at that point? I mean, given your European experience, some people say that.
Well, it was in the 80s, and then it went kind of down because of the ownership and all of that stuff. They had like different owners that didn't have money, and it's not my minor league, but it's my minor league owners. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So, but like the best leagues were over, where I thought like the best league after the NBA was over in Italy. You know what I mean? because they had great basketball players in Italy, and they was paying big dollars.
Describe for me the CBA from your playing year to then going to being a coach there, because a lot of people don't remember that the CBA was not an official relationship with the NBA, although it was, this was a shaky proposition in many respects.
No, so what happened was like the year I went to the CBA was the next best league in professional sports. Okay, they had a TV contract with ESPN and all of that. So it was a pretty good league. They had about 30 teams. It was a good league. Then they sold it to Isaiah Thomas.
Mm-hmm.
And then after that, I guess from like then on, it started going down. Okay. So after that, teams started disappearing. They lost the, TV contract. So it wasn't that good anymore. And so when I got into coaching, there was only maybe about 12 or 13 teams. And at that time, it was pretty good. But the problem was you had maybe 5 or 6 teams that had a lot of money, and then you had some teams that didn't really have money because players wasn't getting paid, and it was just a mess. You know what I mean? And so, like when I played in the CBA, it wasn't anything like that because the team had money and everything. It was a lot different.
Didn't you even have some scraps with the cavalry in terms of like defending your players and stuff from bounce checks and all that kind of stuff? I mean, it sounded like you had a little of that.
Well, we had a good guy, and his name was the owner who was supposed to own the team. His name was Byron Hopgood. Well, he was giving us, bad checks, and then he wanted us to go, or he wanted me to go and take the players on the road and play games and stuff. So I told him I'm not doing that because I know these here guys are here for a reason. Yeah, they're here to play basketball, but like a lot of those guys had, kids, and they needed that money to like pay their house, buy food. So I mean, and I needed my money too. You know what I mean? I'm going to work. I want to be paid, and so like what had happened there was that we had to, end up getting rid of him, and we got a couple of local owners, and then it went real smooth.
And your final coaching gig though was not so okay. Was this around where the G League wasn't around yet, right?
No. So after I left Oklahoma, I went to coach in London, Ontario, in the NBL League.
London, Ontario, in Canada. Sorry. Yes.
Yeah. Which I won 3 championships in a row. And then I decided that I had enough because really I was wanting to like maybe get on an NBA bench or something, because I had did the minor league stuff long enough.
Well, and the D League, right? What we now know as the G League had actually gotten started under the NBA's auspices.
Right.
Was also another. Yeah. Okay.
Yes. And so I never got that opportunity, and so I just gave it up.
Do you miss coaching? I'm sure you miss playing, but do you miss coaching?
Yeah. I miss coaching because I like the competition, but I like teaching also.
So describe the years since then, because you're still very active on the youth basketball clinic circuit, and obviously the story in this book.
Well, like now, like what I do now, me and a guy who I play with, Otis Birdsong, we have
another New Jersey Net great, right?
Yeah. And so we have a company called Ball Stars Youth Camps, is where we go around the country and we do free basketball camps for like underserved kids. Because like a lot of these kids can't afford to pay $500 or $600 a week for no basketball camp. And so like what we do is we go out and get sponsorship dollars where we're able to bring these kids in for free. So like I think this is our 13th year where we've been doing the camps, and it's been free for like underserved kids.
And do I have this right too, that you have a son who plays soccer for?
Rims? Yeah, he plays professional soccer in France for the team called Rims.
Sure, in the Ligue 1. Yeah. But he's also does he also play? He plays on the national team for Morocco as well. Do I have that right?
Yes, he plays for the Moroccan national team because he has. Like matter of fact, he has three citizenship. He has a French passport, a Moroccan passport, and an American passport. His mom is French Moroccan, and so he has dual citizenship there, and then he has an American passport.
Well, I think this is an amazing journey, right? And tell me then now, and Jake, I didn't mean to sort of ignore you in the last couple of minutes here, but tell me now what you want to achieve with this book and the story that you want to get out for people, and what is it what message do you want people to kind of learn from this story, besides, of course, buying the book? Wink, wink, nod, nod.
Well, what I want the people to get out of the book, that the people that who's going through stuff, who has been through, drugs or alcohol or whatever, that if you don't give up, that what can happen to you. You can be successful still. You know what I mean? It doesn't have to be your whole life or the end of your life. It just has to be in a part of it.
Yeah, I think certain parts of our lives can become the first paragraph, and that people think that that's the whole life. And I think writing a book like this with Sugar is, you learn, you go into what a human being can be, and what a couple down years can mean for someone's reputation, and the work that it takes, and the change a human being is capable of to turn their life around, and how 2 years shouldn't define an existence. And so I think reading an entire book and seeing where someone comes from, the ups and downs, and then how someone has finished out, their professional life at some level, that there's a beautiful arc to that. And that's what drew me to the story, is the human being. I do a lot of interviews with a lot of famous people, a lot of athletes, a lot of musicians, and it's not as much about the basketball or the music, it's about the person. And so that's what I always care about whenever I talk to people.
Before I ask you guys to promote, and obviously we'll drop this closer to when the book actually gets published, so that people know that they can buy it relatively quickly, right? Versus too far in advance, right? When they can't, or pre-ordering, sure. But I got to ask Michael in particular. So tell me about this movie in 2000 that was narrated by Chris Rock called Whatever Happened to Michael Ray. I'm curious. I've seen it. Obviously, though, that's a snapshot in time. This came out in 2000, 2001, right? When your story was not fully fleshed out yet, right?
Right.
One, was it a fairly accurate portrayal or discussion, if you will, of the situation at the time? And number two, perhaps, do you think that there's a back half of the story that perhaps could be added to or supplemented to that documentary, given all the stuff that's happened since that time?
You know what? I don't think that it was a full story. You know what I mean? I just think it was just like part of it early, but there's a lot more that should have been in there, because it's not how you start, it's how you finish.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, having seen that, and I don't know if it's replayed at all on an NBA or whatever. It's probably kind of out of print, so to speak. But having seen that movie and stuff, right? It did at the time. It leaves questions, right? But I think for people who may have stumbled across it or do, especially in the promotion for this book, they got to recognize that's the story of where you were 23, 24 years ago, right? And to me, half of what we discussed today, right, is not only the coaching stuff, but frankly, the redemptive story here, and what you're trying to get across to people to perhaps learn from it. And I don't know. I know you want to get the book out first, but perhaps there's a documentary part 2 for you ahead. Maybe, I don't know. I'm just saying.
Well, I mean, if it is, I'm all for it.
All right. Our thanks to both Michael Ray and to Jake Uitti. And again, the book is called Banned, How I Squandered an All-Star NBA Career Before Finding My Redemption. Like I said, it is co-authored by Michael Ray Richardson and Jake Uitti, and it is published by Sports Publishing, which I believe now, after a previous incarnation, is an imprint of Skyhorse Publishing. So regardless of what the name is, just go find it. It's called Banned, and it's colors orange, and it's a pretty easy to find on your bookshelf as you're walking through a bookstore or you're going on Amazon or whatever. Of course, if you go to our website at goodseatsstillavailable.com, search up this episode 372, you'll find all the convenient links you need to get the book as quickly as you can humanly possibly get it. And of course, from Amazon, we will get a couple of shekels of referral love, and we appreciate that. That helps keep our lights on and our pencils sharpened around here to keep pumping out these shows for you each and every week. You can follow Messrs. Uitti and Richardson on the X/Twitter thing. Michael Ray is at Michael, that's Michael, Sugar, Sugar, Ray, Ray, Michael Sugar Ray. And yes, it's AEL, as opposed to the other spelling, which we got into earlier in the conversation. It is still befuddling to me. Nobody seems to know or care about which way to spell it. And I got to tell you, if you go to Wikipedia, it's EAL. If you go to Amazon, it's AEL. If you look at the documentary, it's EAL. If you look at, at some of the old media guides, it's EAL, or maybe it's AEL when it gets to the CBA. God bless Michael Ray. I hope he can keep up with it. I hope all his government documents and IRS forms and all that kind of stuff work out just fine. I can't figure it out, but however he wants to spell it both ways. God bless him. But again, if you're going to follow him on X, go to Michael with AEL, Michael Sugar Ray. Okay. And Jake is found at Twitter at Jake Uitti, and his name is spelled oddly too, but let's spell that for you too. It's all one word. Jake is Jake, and Uitti is Uitti. Jake Uitti. All right, there you go. I'm done with spelling, but I'm not done promoting. My email address is hello@goodseatsstillavailable.com. Again, that website, goodseatsstillavailable.com. Not only every single stinking episode we've ever done resides there for you, but also a wonderful merch section. Check it out. Cool shirts, jerseys, various paraphernalia. We're going to build that out in 2025 for all kinds of things related to things defunct and forgotten. So many things out there for you to enjoy. We're going to curate a bunch of stuff, and hopefully you'll enjoy that too. So keep going back to that website, and we'll be promoting the heck out of that. Our socials. We are now pivoting a lot more towards Blue Sky. There, I said it. We're on Blue Sky at goodseatsstillavailable.com. That's our handle there. Yes, we're still on the Twitter X thing. You'll find us there at Good Seats Still, but I'm going to be really honest with you. We're kind of winding that part down and kind of moving the bulk of our stuff over to Blue Sky, but also we're also on the threads at Good Seats Still Available. We're also on the YouTube at Good Seats Still Available. You'll find us on the Facebook and the Instagram at Good Seats Still Available as well. And that's probably enough. Got the email, got the socials. What else? Oh, hey, Jerry Payne. Hey, Jerry Payne. How you doing? Hey, thank you, sir, of course, for all your fine work this week. Payne Audio Excellence is indeed that once again this week. And I just thank you. We had a great Thanksgiving here at the Hanlon household. And one of the things I am thankful for are the legions of people that continue to keep me going. And at some point, we're gonna celebrate all of you and try to create more of a community here where all of you can kind of chat and get together instead of just yelling at me all the time. So for that, I'm appreciative, and hopefully you will appreciate a whole bunch more of episodes coming your way in the months and weeks and months, and even next year to come. Thank you for keeping us going. We appreciate it. All right, on to the holidays. We'll see you soon. Bye.